Hey guys, let's build another part of 527 Alpha Kilo. Maybe not another part, but a first part. Let's build an elevator since we had to put the horizontal stabilizer off to the side while we wait for something to fix those holes that are drilled incorrectly on the ribs. Here, right there, you saw me taking some pictures because, as I learned with the horizontal stabilizer, check everything, double check everything, and then triple check it. So I was walking through with my handy dandy protractor and checking the angle on the flanges of the spar, just like the flanges of the horizontal stabilizer spar was at the wrong angle. Same thing happened with the elevator, so I had to fix it so that the ribs would fix right or fit right, and so that the skin wouldn't have this weird bump in it from the spar flanges being at one angle and the ribs being at a different angle. It would have caused a weird shape in the skin, so I wanted to make sure that those things lined up as best as possible. To do all of the flange bending this time, I used a vice grip that basically has a really wide, flat jaw at the end of it. It's the same kind of tool that's used for bending aluminum siding and that kind of stuff. I hoped it would work well on this, and it actually seemed to work pretty well. I usually clamp a paper towel or a t-shirt rag between the vice grip and the spar in order to avoid scratching and damaging the metal as much as possible. And then you'll see later, you see the rubber mallet sitting there on the workbench, the good old trusty rubber mallet. I go through later and do some more tapping just to finish it out and make sure that it's at the right angle. The vice grip tool kind of got it mostly there, and then with the rubber mallet I was able to finish it and make sure that all the whole spar is all at the same angle. Here's actually a picture of the tool that I'm using so that you guys have a better idea of what it is. There it is. It's a vice grip, like I said, just with wide jaws so you can bend metal. Got it from Amazon, where we get everything from nowadays. So I think what I'm doing with the elevator spar just goes to show, even when I fully believe that Zenith is a reputable company. They have lots of kits out there, lots of people flying their planes. But even if you're buying from a trustworthy company, double check everything. Just make sure that you're getting things the way that they're supposed to be, so that your plane is going together right. You don't want to build a poor quality aircraft, so you want to make sure that things are to the right angle, to the right specifications, and so your stuff will match. So that with that bump in the skin, if I had left these flanges at the wrong angle, it would have been an appearance thing, but more than that, it would have affected the airfoil, because now there's a little ridge in the skin of the elevator, which is a control surface. You want that airfoil to be nice and smooth and as good as you can get it, so that you're not having to worry about it as you're flying. So double check everything, make sure that it's all to spec, and if it's not to spec, then either replace it or fix it. I decided to fix it because I didn't want to wait for another spar to ship and having to finagle another 12-foot crate. So try fixing it first, and then if I couldn't fix it, I'd have them replace it. But fixing it worked, and we're going to continue building this elevator. Moving on to the ribs pretty soon, and that's exciting, for me at least. It starts to look like an actual part of an airplane pretty quickly. Alright, now we're on to ribs. You can see a single rear rib sticking up over there, getting ready to be attached. So, as with many things, the elevator has rear ribs and nose ribs, and we're going to work on the rear ribs first. Had to mark out earlier in a earlier video, marked out where the rivet lines are for this and drilled out those pilot holes. And now we're taking the ribs and lining up the center line of the rear flange of the rib with the pilot holes on the spar, and then drilling from above and making sure that it's lined up. And so you'll see me crouching a lot, trying to peek over and look at the line, the center line marked on the flange of the rib, making sure that it's lining up with those holes, and then drilling and clecoing and doing all that kind of stuff to get the ribs in the right spot. I just want to point out again, my workbenches do have some issues. It's hard to get them so that they're perfectly level and flat with each other, which is important for building a plane. But they do also have some really strong points, and this is one of them. I was able to slide them out so that I could span the spar between the two end work tables, and then able to hang the ribs down just by scooting those two middle tables away a little bit. And it made things really easy. It was much better than trying to do something else. So I was really happy with that, and happy that my little modular workbenches were effective again. And with drilling these last couple holes, all of the rear ribs for the elevator are drilled and ready to go, and that's awesome. So now it's time to start working on the nose ribs. So I bring those over, start reading the plans again and going over them again and again, making sure I'm doing things right. And you can see a huge difference in the nose ribs compared to the rear ribs. They're curved and very stubby. And then over to the right, on the right middle workbench, you can see a much longer rib that's called, it has a couple different terms, either a full rib or a tip rib, depending on where it's at on the elevator. Those are tip ribs because they're going to go on the end, and that's basically, and you can see me working with one of them right now, lining up the rear rib and the nose rib and doing all this stuff with them. So the tip ribs go on the end, and it's basically the nose rib and the rear rib together, but you don't have to worry about splitting it because it's on the end of this spar. Also, the rear ribs for the elevator were all more or less symmetrical, so it didn't matter where they went. You just lined them up with the holes for the rear rib, and that's where it went. With the flange facing a specific way, facing in, But with the nose ribs, it is specific where they go, left or right. There's 2 left and 2 right, and you have to, for this particular plane, for the 801 Super Duty, you have to line the rear rib up with the tip rib, and then line the nose rib up on there, and that, based on how the curve goes, that tells you what's the top of the nose rib, what's the bottom of the nose rib, and whether it's left or right, because the curvature of the airfoil of the elevator is different from top to bottom. That's how airfoils work. You have to have that different curvature, so that one side has air flowing over it faster than the other side, and so you have to figure out which nose rib goes where, so that you're putting them in the right spot. Otherwise, you don't have a airfoil. All right, we're going to finish out today with drilling out the holes for these nose ribs. We're getting really close to having a complete elevator skeleton. All that's left is to drill out the appropriate holes for the tip ribs going on the side, and then doing the never-ending job of deburring, applying anti-corrosive, and then finally we get to rivet the skeleton together after we do all of that. So, getting close. It's exciting. Hopefully you guys come back for the next video, and we'll see a completed elevator skeleton once we attach those tip ribs into the right spot. And with those tip ribs, you have to have a hinge point going through it, because that's where the elevator is going to hinge on in order to control the plane. But anyways, that's getting ahead of me. We'll check that out in the next video. Hopefully you guys drop in again. So again, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please throw them down in the comments. I'd love to answer questions, take any comments. I'm becoming more and more passionate about building planes because it's really fun, even though it's frustrating sometimes. And so hopefully you guys are seeing that passion, and I hope you guys catch that passion, because anyone can build a plane as long as you know how to follow a recipe, or in the case of this plane, know how to look at brownies and a cake recipe and make cookies. But yeah, to each their own. So thank you guys for joining me, and have a good day.